Hello there. In the last couple of streams, I keep on adding on to this idea of, oh, now I have an even more convenient way to enter some common ranges. So last time, the way I did it, let's actually go to another file. Oh wow, you're quick. Hell yeah. This is what you get if you're in our Discord server and you get the chatter role, get notified immediately. Isn't that cool? Huh. Well, I'll talk about what literally just happened a bit later. Let's first jump to this file with lyrics of a random track. So what I had on the last stream is that if I press Shift Enter, and by the way, I mapped Enter to make me go into command mode instead of colon. So for me, Shift Enter would enter this range. And then I can enter a number to maybe say, oh, from this line to 7 lines down, execute some sort of command, right? And that's pretty damn good. It's really fucking good, actually. And then if I press Shift Enter again, it switches to a different range from the current line to the end of the file. By all accounts, that's very good, but yesterday, I read the docs on, I shit you not, the colon, and I wonder where exactly it said something like ridiculous. Well, actually, I'll probably not be able to find it again, but long story short, the colon takes a count. Imagine, what the fuck? I've been using neovim for almost 2 years, or almost 3 years, I forget. And only now am I realizing that you can pass a count to colon, and by extension to enter for me. And this is really big. So essentially my Shift Enter thing became pretty useless because, well, I can just pass a number directly and get the same thing. Now, just so you know, the default semantics of passing a count to colon, the way it works, you can see that we're on this line. So when you pass a count, what you mean is that execute this command for 3 lines. So you press 3 colon, and it's like, okay, so for 3 lines. The semantic that I wanted is 3 lines down. So I changed it a bit, which is why when I do 3 enter, it shows up as 3 here, because I'm targeting this line. By default, it would show up as 2, with the semantic of 3 lines, rather than 3 lines down, you know? So that's the difference, and I want to show you how to get that kind of like different semantic. Where are we? We're in command mappings. So we need to go here. So this is the function that I use to make it take count correctly. There's a special variable in Vim called count, and it contains the count that you pass to a mapping. So basically the number that you type in before pressing an operator. And if you didn't give it any if you don't give it any number, then it's just going to be 0. So in that case, it's if I just press enter right now, I don't pass it any count, so it just executes the go to command mode thing without any special stuff. But if I do provide a count, so if it is at least 1, then we take the count that we got provided and add 1 to it. In other words, this is just kind of for convenience. It's not actually needed. Let me explain. So maybe you want to execute some command on the range of these lines. The default way of how you could do it, you look at this line and you're like, so this is line 4. If I said 4 colon, it would only act on 4 lines. It would not include the last one. So essentially what you could do instead is just always look at the line and add 1. So you would do, so it's 4, so I press 5 instead, and it would work correctly without my special remapping. So technically it's not needed, it's just for convenience. Basically I add 1 automatically rather than having to do it in my head. And what is feed keys? Feed keys I use all the time. It's basically an abstraction for Vim API neovim feed keys, which is like pretty confusing. How do I, like this. So this is mode apparently, and what is this? Escape something. I don't know, always using it like this with, like, I don't know what n means and I don't know what false means here. Especially considering that I always want those to be there, which is why I made this abstraction that I use everywhere. So feed keys, what it does, it basically acts as if the user pressed those keys. I'm not sure exactly why it doesn't like recognize remaps, because for me, if I press colon right now, I don't go to command mode, but for some reason in the mapping it works. Oh well. Yeah, so takes account. So now when I want to do a relative line type of command, I just provide a count, and then shift enter just becomes from current line to the end of the file, which makes a lot of sense because from the current line to the end of the file, semantic is shared by shift G. But now it's shift enter. I'm pressing shift in both places and it feels like a motion to the end of the file. So in terms of how it feels, it's really good. I sometimes remove these one by one, but I can actually select them and then delete them. For some odd reason, I don't trust that though, which is kind of funny. Okay, so if we look at Z capital M, what it does is set fold level to 0, which ends up folding everything that can be folded. And it only specifically sets fold level to 0. So if you pass a number to it, it will still do 0, which is a missed opportunity. So what I did is now for me, I can pass a count to Z capital M. So 1 Z capital M will only fold past the first possible fold. So you can see here that it's folding this, but not this automatically. And this continues on. So now I can pass whatever absolute fold level that I want, which is very convenient. So let's go search for Z capital M. This is the function that you would have to use. We're using count again. Oh, and by the way, I haven't mentioned this, but I wanted to. There's also count to 1. So count, if you don't provide a count, is 0. But count 1, if you don't provide a count, is 1. That's the difference. So effectively, if we don't provide a count, then count is 0, and we set fold level to 0. So effectively, without a count, Z_M remains exactly the same in functionality. But if we do provide a count, it is actually used. By all accounts, this should be like the default behavior. Maybe it will be in the future, but probably not. I also find it interesting that on the exact next line, I use a different notation. So not the function notation, but instead the command notation. Let's change that. I find it kind of ugly. So vim wo fold level is 99. Oh, this mapping. Oh, right. I already explained this on yesterday's stream. Okay. Now, I made something pretty hyper-specific. Let's imagine a situation where my current working directory is .files, and then I decide to edit proj glaza srs main.rs, and here I am in a different file in a different project. I should probably move screen key a bit down so this is always visible. Should probably do that. So now we're in the main rs file of a different project, but my current working directory is still .files, and I would like them to match. Why? Because now if I use telescope for files, I'm still searching in .files rather than searching in glaza. So I have made a special mapping, G_Q. What it does is that it switches to the head directory of the current file. So it CDs into the directory that the current file is in, and then also if it can find the current Git repo, it CDs into that instead, if possible. So let me show you. I press G_Q, and now my current working directory is glaza. Even though the parent directory is SRS, we CD'd into there first, but then notice, the Git repo is actually glaza. Let's go there instead. So this way, if I end up at some certain file, I can quickly CD into the correct directory if I want to, which is really nice. Let's go and look at an example of going here. Now my current working directory is still glaza, but I want to be here. I press G_Q and I end up at ~t. And you can see that even though there is no Git directory at all, it just goes to the parent directory in this case. If I press GQ again, oh, right, it wouldn't do anything, of course, because there's no head directory of the current file, like here. Or rather, it isn't the same. It is still T. I could add extra functionality that if the current working directory and the parent directory are the same, then go to home or something. But I don't think I ever will need that, so I'm not going to do it yet. Let's go look at the definition, and here's how it works. Basically, we get the parent directory and CD into there. Then we get repo root, so the Git repo directory. And if it didn't error out, then we CD into there as well. So here I actually use API of Astro neovim, but it's actually not required. Because you could use vim function system list you could instead use to, oh well, I guess just system. Yeah, vim function system you could instead use to call this shell command. But I'm not going to explain how to do that because it's in the docs and it's like not particularly, I guess, surprising. So if you're interested in this kind of functionality, you can pretty easily figure it out. But if you're using Astro as well, well, here you go. It's pretty straightforward here. Okay. I found something pretty interesting. So on yesterday's stream, once again, I showed off the idea of you can use ZF to create arbitrary folding sections here and there, and then you can use fold do to execute a command on all the lines that are not in closed folds, or fold doc for closed. Fold doc, so execute a command on all the lines that are in a closed fold. And then I thought, how would I delete all lines that are in a closed fold? I tried out a couple of different ways. So let's like retry them, I guess, here. Let's do fold doc, norm dd, or actually just d, fold doc d. I might have just literally right now discovered a better way of doing what I was about to show you. Yeah, forget it then. So you can probably see here I have like my note for what to talk about. Oh wait, hold up, I was meant to tell you about a completely different thing. Right, okay, forget about it again, because I actually was about to talk about something completely different. So let's do Z capital M, and here we have a bunch of functions. Let's say I want to delete all functions that have copy in their name. So let's first of all try it out like this. We use G, so every line that matches copy, delete it. And we can see that this used to be a function with a copy in its name, but only the first line of it got deleted. You can see that everything else in the function is still here, so I didn't get to do what I actually wanted to do. So back to the drawing board. But you can see here that all of these functions are in a closed fold. First of all, please fix syntax highlighting. By the way, fun fact, if your syntax highlighting is broken, you can use E with nothing, and that will re-edit the file, effectively fixing the syntax highlighting issue. So what happens right now if I try to delete a line which is a closed fold? I delete all the lines of that closed fold, which is very nice functionality. I'm glad that it works this way. So we can replicate this in our G command. So instead of using D for delete, we'll use norm dd to simulate this behavior. We look for all the lines that have copy in them, and to be more precise, we could do function copy. It's probably more of what we want, maybe even something like this. And then press dd on those lines effectively, meaning that the entire closed fold gets deleted. And now it's all correct. Of course, now we have to clean up a few empty new lines. So a way to take care of that as well is do dj, which should be fine. Yeah, here we go. So now we did this. This is how we can use folds to interact on sections that match a certain string. And you didn't have to make up an absolutely ridiculous way to actually match the entire function. Not exactly sure how you would do that. I'm sure you can, but it would be more annoying to type in the entire pattern and try to make sure that it works correctly. Here we didn't even need to do that. It was pretty plain and simple. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I discovered a cool guy yesterday that also makes neovim content. And I wonder if I have his channel copied. I don't even remember his name. Let's go to YouTube, because I have him in watch history. Right, at least I should, because I download every video I watch. This guy is also cool, so I guess I'll send you a link to him, but that's not who I'm talking about. Yeah, this guy. I'm not sure if this is the exact video where I learned this cool thing, but maybe it was, so I'm going to give you the link to this video. And what did I learn from this cool neovim content creator? So technically I already knew that you can do this sort of thing, but I didn't really know. Okay, so we have the exclamation mark thingy. What it lets you do is that it lets you execute a shell command using bash usually. So if you do I mean, yeah, literally any command. Let's use GHL, my Rust program that conveniently gets GitHub links. Fair enough. Let's go to .files for a change. So here I executed the shell command GHL, and it gave us the GitHub link of this Git repo. Right, so I can just execute shell commands however I want. The reason why this is useful is because this can take a range. I'll just give it to you straight. Let's write some Lua code. Let's do 3 multiplied by 9 and then minus 2.5. And we will print this. Then we press exclamation mark, which ends up giving us a range of dots, meaning the current line. What you could do instead is do, let's say local var is 38 and then plus var, right? So we could do exclamation mark j. So basically exclamation mark here from normal mode is an operator. It expects a motion and then passes that motion as the range that you're using. Does that sound familiar? Yes, it is almost like it's very similar to being able to provide a count to enter, but here it expects a motion. So if you do something like exclamation mark L to go to right, it will provide the current line, and you could do 2j, and interestingly it does 11 because it goes to the end of the closed fold. Didn't expect that, but what this wins compared to my count enter solution is that you can actually go up. So I can do 2k you might look at this range and say, well, hold up, this is actually just wrong, because you were here, and then it would go here, like 2 lines down. Like, this is just plain wrong. Actually, no, because the way this works is very interesting. Our cursor is now at this position, and it's pointing from here to here, because the range got automatically reversed to work correctly, which I find really fascinating. So yeah, this is how it works. It moves our cursor up to make the range work again, even though we started here, which is like really fascinating. So effectively what you could use is just exclamation mark. You can use it to get a range from a motion that you are expecting, and then you can just press backspace and use any command, or you can just use exclamation mark. I wish that this was a more general operator rather than giving you exclamation mark by default. It's sort of annoying. I would love it for it to be a bit more general, because pressing backspace every time kind of eh. But regardless, so you can also do 1 enter exclamation mark. Like, you don't have to use the operator, you can use normal command mode, just enter exclamation mark. This also works. So finally, we selected these 2 lines. So on the range of these 2 lines, let's execute Lua. Isn't this magic? It's because it's very old and adheres to Unix philosophy. Do one thing and do it well. But that's the thing. I think that's the guy, by the way, that I was just talking about. So welcome to the stream. The thing about Unix philosophy is that generally it does one thing and does it well, but that one thing is usually pretty abstract. So for example, the motion is one of the original VI operations. Yeah, this is why I keep saying that we need a better model editor, a more modern one that doesn't have to rely on really old traditions, basically, and is instead built on like more sense, rather than, oh, this is this way because it's been this way for fucking 30 years, you know? So let me give you an example. One thing and one thing well can mean 2 different things. Let's compare 2 programs. We have shuf, and with the en1 option, it can pick randomly one of the options that you give it, like apple, tomato, orange, and you can continue adding on more arguments depending on like what you want to pick, right? We can add another one, potato, and it all works. And here's a program that I wrote in the past. Initially, it was restricted. It could only take 2 different options. Right now, it also takes as many as you provide, but it started by only taking 2 possible options. Does this program do one thing and does it well? What is that sentence? Or does shuf do it? In my opinion, it's shuf, because it's doing one thing, but that one thing is pretty general. It randomizes things. It randomizes input. But how that input is given to you, either on the command line or by piping into shuf or by using a range, that thing is general. But what it is doing at the core is one thing: randomize input. So effectively, and then twice, my initial version of twice is also doing one thing, but that one thing is too restricted. It says you can only randomize out of 2 inputs that you can only provide on the command line. That is still one thing, sure, but it's far more restricted, so chef is a better program. What exclamation mark has as an issue is the fact that it's like twice. It's very similar to twice because, yeah, it's doing one thing, but it's a bit too restrictive. While instead, what it could do instead is be an operator that turns into a range. So that I could give it a motion and then it just gives me a range. Basically telling me, okay, I do one simple thing, I convert your motion to a range. What you do after, after that, you get to decide. So this would be better. This would be more Unix philosophy, I think, because it doesn't shoo you in using specifically exclamation mark, especially considering that you don't need to use exclamation mark with ranges. Ranges work for any command. So you see the point that I'm making here? So what I would expect you to do is that xarg chef, yeah, makes sense. I would argue expecting you to want to use the shell instead of vim features. Yeah, that's the thing. I disagree with that. I think more generally, it should be like, oh, you can execute any command that you want with this range. I'm just giving you the range. What you do with that range is up to you. Maybe it would be like, oh, I don't even need you to execute a command. Just press enter and you'll go to the next line, for example. Useless, but you can, right? Because the thing is, there is a lot of functionality in both vim commands and shell commands. Why only shoehorn me into shell commands? But coming back, what we just did is we passed these lines, we piped them into Lua, which interprets Lua. So just took those lines and gave us the output of this code. So effectively what you can do is on the go type some code and turn it into its output, which is amazing. I mean, I completely stole it from you because that's such a cool idea. It's incredible. So this gives my endeavor of learning Python way more sense, because I can't just write some Rust code where I'm let I don't know, x is 3 and then print line this x, and then I'm Rust, wait, you can't do that, cargo run, what? And it's what are you talking about, girl? So yeah, but Lua is an interpreted language, but I hate Lua. Now Python may actually be useful for this, because I could even do something do some API thingy and then do something with the output and just get that output wherever I want. This is very useful. 0 point, it's a matter of preference, I guess. Fair enough. Yeah, so by learning Python, I'll be able to use a proper language, which I would not call Lua, that has a bunch of useful features that you can use on the go, and far more easily than Rust, by the way. Rust doesn't really fit the idea of, oh, write some code on the go and get its output. It's way too, I would even say, annoying for that. When you're doing actual development, Rust is much better for that development. But if you just want to quickly write some code and get its output, Python is going to be really fucking good. because it's pretty concise. This is why I end up having hundreds of shell scripts to run with. Oh, that's interesting. I believe that this executes in my shell. Let's try that out. What is a shell alias that I have in fish? So not bash. GZWL. Okay, right, so it does work like I think it does. So it uses the shell that you actually use, which in my case is fish, which is why it works. The reason why I don't use this as often is because generally I just want to run the command, and I'm not trying to put some lines into that command, so I just open a new kitty pane. But if I do want to filter some lines and do something with them, I'll definitely be using this. Or from other languages somewhere in a bin folder. Aliases won't work. They clearly do. Because look at this, GZ, watch later. GZ is not an executable, it is a fish shell alias specifically, and yet it works. So no. Interesting, I wonder why. I guess one extra win for fish shell. Maybe in fish shell, functions and aliases work differently, that they're accepted, and in bash they aren't. It's pretty surprising, actually. I was expecting that bash would work a bit better with this kind of built-in functionality, the functionality of where you build a shell into another program. Usually bash is like it works better. So I'm kind of surprised that fish works better here. I expected it to give me more head pain. Yeah, cool. So effectively, if you ever want to quickly execute some code and get its output, forget about running Lua or just running Python. Oops. You really don't have to. Because you can just hold up. Because you can just use new to create. I forgot that I did it in a split. Well, basically you create a new file and you don't have to save it, no nothing. You just do, you can, if you want to, set the file type to Lua so that you get like completions, language server, and so on. But it's not necessary, actually. It's just kind of convenient, possibly. And then you're like, how much is that powered by 3? And then you're like, Lua, I see, got it. And then you get this number and you come back and use it in your thing. The reason why I say to do that instead of using like expression evaluation is because I don't know how to use power in Vim script. Maybe you need a function, but I'm not sure what function you need. And you probably know Lua or Python or literally any interpreted language better than fucking Vim script, right? So when Vim script evaluation doesn't work for you, or you don't know how to use it well, you can just use a programming language right where you're typing stuff in, and then you get its output and blammo. So here you can actually get a lot of power from interpreted languages. And what I'm thinking of is that what if we just use fish -c, and what can we do? Let's do printf. But now, whoops. But now I'm not sure if you even need printf. Let's do x and print the decimal number 20 as hex. Right, but that would well, let's try both out. Interesting. Why did right, because you probably need to escape %, or you need to use double %. No, maybe you need to escape it. Yeah, you need to escape it. Okay, because the thing is, in command mode, %, generally or always, expands to the full file path of your current buffer. So that is what was happening. So that's why you need to escape it here. And boom, we just got the representation of 20, like decimal 20 in hex. There's probably a better way of doing this in Vim, but I can't think of it like on the spot. So yeah, you can also use fish. Similarly, you can probably use lua-c print SDF, or like you execute the command that you want, right? Oh, interesting. It's not -c. Maybe it's -e. Let's probably do this also. Yeah, here we go. So that's quite a lot of options to just quickly get the output of something and then paste it in. I assume that the just fish wouldn't work. So let's try that out. I'd be surprised. Yeah, thought so. You need to use the -c option. Because the way that I would execute something and get the output in the past would be maybe like this. So x20, and then I use my special hotkey that I needed to figure out how to create in Kitty to copy the output of the last command, which is wrong, by the way, which is really funny. So now I have to also use a new line after, and now it should work. And now I come back and insert. So this is a bit more of an operation, having to open a terminal. And that's for fish shell. If I wanted to quickly like evaluate Python, this would be even more annoying, right? Oh, I meant type it in the buffer and pipe through fish. Yeah. You can also obviously do this. So let's do printf. Yeah, printf x20 fish. So this is the other, like, more reasonable way of doing this. So what I'm trying to show off is basically you can either type in the code in your buffer, or in some cases you can use the -c or -e option, depends on the language and the interpreter, to just type the code here if you don't want to type it in your buffer for one reason or another. Yeah, so that's pretty neat. I found a cool plugin. I think you could use it is an evaluation context for Rust. Cool, didn't know that. But my main point is, I guess, that with compiled languages, you either don't have the option to, or you have to go through more trouble to make them, like, interpretable. So the power of interpreted languages in this case is their simplicity. You can just interpret and you don't have to go through hoops to get there, right? I would prefer read to avoid. Right, see, that is what I was looking for, because I forgot about our existing. So, right, if you're just trying to get the output of the command, use this. So fish-c echo is the F. I completely forgot about read. So this is the more straightforward way of doing this, because with this approach, we still are piping, in this case, an empty line to fish, and if this wasn't an empty line, it would get replaced. But with read, it doesn't get replaced. Instead, we paste the output of the command on the next line. So this is what read does. I should probably add an Anki card to remember that. Completely, like, forgot about it existing. I found a cool plugin, and it is called rabbit.neovim. Let me give you the link to it. Effectively, what Rabbit is, I recommend you to read the README. What it is Telescope's choose buffer thing, but different. It's way more simple in the UI, and it solves a couple of problems, but the main selling point of it is that you can just press the number. So say I want to go to S, instead of having to either go there like that, or having to pass a count to go that many lines down and then enter. Forget about that, you can just press 6 and here you are. If you don't want it in the buffer, only see the output, you can also .write command. Oh, that's interesting. So you're telling me that zero echo is the F. So the current line, write fish. So interesting. So we basically evaluated this line of code and got its output, but we don't paste that output, we just look at it. And it's still there. That's also very interesting. I'll need to add an Anki card for this as well. The reason why this can potentially be really useful, say you wrote some code, what code doesn't require me to be interactive? Kinda all of it is complex. I'll definitely find something. Okay, sure, let's do that. Well, no, this won't be a good example, because this would close the current window and we wouldn't get output because it would close this entire window. Maybe abstractions will have something that we can just execute. Yeah, this. So say I maybe wrote this line and I want to check what it actually outputs. Instead of having to go in and actually execute the function, no need, turns out. Just do this, fish. So on the current line, use the write command and pass this line into fish. And we got our output. That's really damn cool. I'll need to get used to using all of this because it's like immensely cool. So the Rabbit plugin, it gives us a list of all the buffers that we visited in the current window for us to be able to go between them very quickly. So you can also go with your cursor, so maybe to this file, press enter, or alternatively, you can just press 8, for example, to go to main rs, and here we are. I know you don't care, but those all work in original Vi. No, that's cool. That's the thing. So even base Vim has immense power behind it. We have our modern neovim with all the LSPs and all the other crazy stuff, but at the end of the day, even base Vim or Vi is like really cool and really powerful, which is why I find it really important to try to learn all of these things to effectively use them. Because what you end up getting is oftentimes a lot more power than you would have otherwise by trying different solutions, like, oh, actually running the command in your terminal, or maybe making a temporary test file, then having to save it, then chmod plus x, and then executing it, and then you're like, and then you have to somehow copy the output, and only then can you paste it, while you can just do this, right? So yeah. So Rabbit is pretty cool, but I think I'm already like about it. So because with the correct configuration, you can make telescope buffer selection effectively act like Rabbit. The only difference here is that you can't just press a number to go to a specific buffer, but the benefit is that you can get the preview. You can see here it previews the files automatically, and usually when I want to go to some place that I was before, I won't be looking at the paths. I would be looking at what I was, like, what code or text or whatever else I was in, right? So maybe I'm working on this, I'm like, hold up, I want to go back, and I'm scrolling through. Wait, hold up. Yeah, I want to go here because I'm looking at the actual place that I want to go at. I don't want to need to think about the file path that I want to go to, right? And Rabbit doesn't have that. It just gives you the file names. So I notice you kind of have to give more thought to jumping back. But overall, it's an interesting plugin because it makes things potentially faster. I saw someone a while back work with snippets like that. Oh yeah, actually. Yeah, I do remember that. I saw it somewhere as well. It is indeed quite a bit verbose, because if it's something that I'm going to be using pretty often, I'll just use a Lua snip snippet. But back in the days, that wasn't really a thing, which is why this still has validity. It's going to be most useful for when you know that the output that you want is in a certain file, but you don't intend to use it so often to make a snippet for it, which is why instead you do this to basically on the go. Oh, okay, I need the text of some certain file. You paste it in and you continue on. So that's an interesting use case. So yeah, Rabbit, interesting plugin. I don't think I'm going to be using it, but I do recommend checking it out because maybe it solves issues that you otherwise find here. Mostly the fact that you can just type in a number to really quickly go to some file. trying to think if I have enough fire to talk about this, because this is like the huge thing that I did yesterday. Spent about 4 hours on it, more or less. Sure, let's talk about it. I effectively made a neovim plugin. It is not yet a neovim plugin, but I do intend to make it into one. The reason why I'm not a huge fan of macros, and I try to usually avoid using them by using either the norm command, the G, the S, and so on and so forth, instead of macros. Range write some file. Hold up, how does that work? So write t example Yeah, what does this do? I don't quite understand. So, the issue with macros is that if you fuck up, you're kinda done. Let's try to write some macro and fuck up. I probably won't even have to doctor that situation. I'll probably fuck up. Actually. So let's say I want to record a macro that deletes the arguments of a function. Wait, no. It's like a good example. It writes only those lines to a file. Oh, I see what you mean. So effectively, we write these lines to SDF, and then we can read the SDF. So it's effectively as if we're creating a temporary snippet, or we're saving this in a register, kinda, but without using a register. This would usually be really exciting for me, but because of the feature that I'm going to talk about right now, right, so because of it, it is no longer as needed. So what would be the example? I can't imagine like an example of fucking up a macro because I can't even think of an example. I'm cooking. Let me cook. You're not bothering me. What do you mean? You're absolutely welcome here. All right. Bye bye. Have a good one. I might be running out of fire, honestly. Fuck yeah. Okay, so I want to add a macro that adds a comment after the function. So let's record into U, and I go to the start of the line and then use %sign to go to the end keyword of the function, and then I write my comment, escape, and ZUU. Oops. So that's a pretty simple macro. And now I want to add the same comment. I want to execute this macro on this function. So how do I execute macros again? I remember remapping it. Oh, like that. Example macro task could be to change all the functions to be on the form. Right, but I would use a norm command for that. So it's more so trying to find a situation where I can't abuse norm, g, s, and so on instead of a macro. I'm trying to find a situation where I can only reasonably use a macro. So I want to add a comment after this function, right? So I execute. This shouldn't have worked. Okay, fuck you. Fucking Vim being good. What the hell? So what I was trying to show you is that here at the start of the macro, I went to the start of the line to make sure I'm on the function keyword. So then when I pressed %, it would go to end. But my idea was, oh, now this doesn't work because now when I go to the start of the line, I am no longer on function, I am on local, and % shouldn't work, but it does, I guess. Wow, what the hell? Yeah, but just imagine that it didn't work. And then I'm like, well, fuck, now this macro that I took my time and effort recording doesn't work. And how do you edit a macro? You have multiple options. You can use let at u equals, then you have to use the correct set of quotes. If you use incorrect quotes, like for example, maybe your macro uses single quotes, and then you have to either escape them or use the other set of quotes. Maybe your macro uses the double quote, then you have to use single quotes. What if your macro uses both single and double quotes? Then you're kind of fucked. Right, and then you insert what is in u, and you have this like kind of meh way to edit your macro. First of all, it's a lot of characters to type in just to edit a macro, and then you have to deal with this annoying situation of single quotes. But then at least at the end, if you figured out your quote situation, you can press Ctrl F to use a buffer to edit your macro. But then what I found is that sometimes after you do this, your macro gets broken, and I'm still not sure why that happens. This kind of sucks. Then you also have the registers picker of telescope that has a special action for editing registers that contain your macros. First of all, finding the correct register that you want to edit is kind of annoying on its own. You can see that even though I used U, it matched Z first. So it's not like a direct, oh, go to this register specifically. It's not direct, but you have to search and then find what you want to do, and then you press your hotkey to edit, and this is better. Here you don't have to worry about that quote and double quote situation. That's pretty good. However, now you can't press Ctrl F to edit that in a buffer, so that also kind of sucks. Another way you could edit the macro is by pasting it in your like actual file in your buffer, then changing it up somehow, and then you delete it back into the macro. But the issue with this is that maybe you're working on some actual code, which you probably are, right? And then you have to either find a convenient place to insert your macro or just paste it in somewhere. And then after you edit, you have to think of how you should delete it back. So it's like very annoying. You either need to create a convenient place or you need to probably break your syntax highlighting, get a bunch of diagnostics because that language doesn't recognize this random string of characters, and then you also have to figure out how to delete it conveniently. It's a fucking pain in the ass. So all of the three methods of possibly editing a register are almost not worth it. So what I ended up doing is just kind of not using macros, because one mistake can cost me having to re-record the macro, and by the time I get it right, I probably have already did the text change manually. It would maybe be faster. So like, it's a whole pain in the ass. So for this entire reason, this is why I created a function to edit a register. Let's do leader G U, and we get a window, a floating window, which just has the register's text in it. I can edit it, and once I close this window, boom, that's it. It's like very refreshing how non-bullshit this is. It's just very direct, very simple. So when we do a reg u, you can see that it is indeed edited. The extra dash they added is here, and it's just that simple. Isn't that cool? So maybe you fucked up a macro and then you realize, oh, if I added this extra string of keys, then it would work. So you just do that, add that string of characters, and then you can just execute it again. Because now it works like how you want. Like, isn't this super cool? And not only macros, you can just edit some register. Maybe you copy this to the A register, right? And then, like, right, so you just copy this to the A register so that you can easily use this string later. But then you realize, oh, hold up, actually, I want to use brackets as well, always. So what you could do is maybe paste it in and then add brackets and re-delete it, but that's kind of annoying for reasons I already explained. So you can just go edit the A register, and now when you paste from the A register, it has brackets. It's just that fucking good. So leader G is bound to this function edit register. Let's go to it. And I have to warn you, it is a lot. Okay, maybe it's not as much code as I thought it was, but it's not particularly simple. And it was really fucking difficult to figure out because neovim's APIs suck ass. They're so bad. They're so bad. They're so annoying to use. They're so inconvenient and based on really old stuff that is annoying to have to deal with. It's like, I want to cry. But yeah, but it works. So first of all, we're using getChar, which is my function to get a character from the user, and it returns that character. If you press escape, it returns nil. So effectively, we can use this to just make one mapping instead of having to make a mapping for every single register. So if you press escape, the operation does not continue. So I can press leader G, escape, and nothing happens. Instead of trying to edit escape, right? This you can ignore. Yeah, so getChar. We get a register, ignore this. Now we get the register type. If we do reg if we do reg, we can look at all of our registers and what they contain. You can see this type CL. What does this mean? If the type is C, that means that the content of that register is character-wise, which means that if you press P to paste it, you will not create a new line, you will just paste it like as inline. So my current like default register is character-wise, which is why it does this, instead of pasting it on a new line. Alternatively, it can be L, and L means that it's line-wise. So if I paste from there, it will create a line. Doesn't seem like I have any line-wise registers, interestingly. Most of them are character-wise. A lot of these else are just like, just has a new line. So this register is effectively empty. Another type that can exist is B, which stands for block-wise. So let's select this in block mode, visual block mode, and copy it to A. Let's do, by the way, instead of reg, you can also use display or just DI, so it's one less character. So DI, and now let's go look at A. Where is it? Here it is. So now it is B. The content is block-wise. So this is what we're doing here. We're getting the type of the content in the register. If we didn't do this, what would end up happening is that anytime we edit some register, it would always end up being a line-wise register. So for example, this should be character-wise, I believe. Actually, let's just give a more like exact example. I copy into A, so this is character-wise. If I try to paste it, or paste it from A, it is character-wise. If I edit it and I'm done, it is still character-wise. If we didn't get the type, after this edit, it would end up being line-wise. Or the opposite, maybe if it was line-wise and we edit it, it would then have to be converted into character-wise. So no matter what, it would be fucked. By getting this type, we can retain the same type after editing, even if it's block-wise. Let's go edit this to maybe contain A at the end or whatever, and when I paste from A, it is still block-wise. So really, really nice. Then we get the content of that register. We create a new temporary buffer and put the contents of that register into that buffer. We do some math to figure out how the floating window should look, and then we open that floating window. Then we make an auto command that once we leave that window, we get the contents of that register and set register A, for example, to that content that we got from the buffer. Blammo, that's it. And it's how it works. So now you can get the ability to, first of all, quickly look at the contents of a register. Even this is like worth its weight in gold, because usually if you try to do display A, for example, this is kind of hard to look at because of the new lines. I can't like imagine this text well enough in my head, and if it was like even longer, it would be even more difficult. And also, I think it's more characters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4 to also close it, right? Actually, no, we shouldn't even count that because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 6 also. 6 to execute the command. So 6 versus 1, 2, 3. It's just faster. It's just literally just faster. Now, for what it's worth, maybe it's not going to be on leader G for you. Maybe it's going to be a 3-letter mapping, but regardless, same idea. This will generally be just faster to get to, and you look at the content as it is, with lines and stuff, without it being abbreviated strangely like that. And then to edit it, you don't have to do any Control F stuff or have to be in insert mode and stuff like that. No, just use your normal motions as you would usually to edit it however you wish. And then you just close it, like save and close it, I mean. And it just works. It just works. It's plain, simple, and fast. So if you want to get this, I'm going to give it to you. Makes sense, right? So this is the link that may break in the future, but has the benefit of giving you the latest code. Hold up. And this is the link that stays static, so it won't be broken in the future for sure, but it's not going to be updated. Making this as a telescope mapping would be awesome. Interesting idea, but then it still has the issue that I mentioned, that trying to find the register that I want to get is kind of annoying, because if I search for U, I end up at Z and then have to go. Like, I find this pretty annoying, but I do agree that maybe for people that are not bothered by this behavior, this would be like really good for sure. And this should actually be pretty easy to do, like straight up. Basically, there's API in Telescope to get the value of the selected thing. Then in the value property, it would have the actual register, and then you would be able to pass that register into the edit register function, and here you would be. Can you search the bracket? Yeah, but then you have to... Oh, you can't even. I thought you could. Well, even if you could, that's still an extra character that you're typing in unnecessarily. Yeah, so it's like pretty annoying. I know, right? It's like, damn, wow. I mean, for what it's worth, by the way, if you just want to like edit a certain register, maybe you're already looking at this view for one reason or another. Maybe you just want to look at all of your registers to kind of check them out. And maybe you're like, oh, I just want to, like, I don't know, remove this true and change it to a false. For this, using this is actually pretty good. But even then, I'd probably... What? Huh. Even then, I would probably still just use my thing. It's kind of hard to argue for Telescope in this case. The UX is worse in my opinion. Well, no, I think the UX is better because it's more discoverable. You can look at everything and so on and so forth. You can even look at the mappings that you can use there. But I guess the speed, the usage of my thing is better. Right, so I sent you the code. What you could do is make this function take a character and then make however many, I think 26 mappings one by one, where you specifically make something like this. So map in normal mode, leader GA is function edit register, wait, no, not magazine, edit register, that takes A, and then make 25p, and then we increment this. Yes, I can increment letters, what about it? So something like this, right? And here you go, basically I made all of the 26 mappings that you would need in one go. This way you wouldn't have to use get char, because the issue about get char is because I can do leader J fucking control V, and now it is like, what the fuck? What do you mean control V? And so errors out because it's an invalid register name. If you just made the mappings directly, this wouldn't be an issue, which is why in my plugin that I am going to make for edit register, I am not going to include get char because it is error prone. So what I'll do instead is just provide suggested mappings that will be the entire 26 mappings that you would need, or maybe more. I'll have to look into registers that you can write to. Oh my god, my cats are meowing. It is 2:30 a.m. It's 2:30. You shouldn't be hungry. What the hell? Hold up. But if you are still interested in this function get char, because it's like very useful for a bunch of other stuff. I used it like many times in a bunch of my cool stuff. Let me give you that as well. Thinking of how to do this here. Let's try it out. Let's execute a command, GHL. Actually, yeah, XCP is an alias that I have, so this will work as well. Right, I assume it will. Yeah, wait, no. Oh, because I need to provide, hold up. Let's redo that, but now I pass %, and % automatically expands to the full path of the buffer. So this shouldn't work either, right? Oh, my bad. Actually, let me take back my words. % doesn't expand to the full path of the current buffer. It expands to what is displayed here, basically. This shit is custom, so this doesn't tell you much, but it expands to whatever this is. I don't remember what it is. Basically, you can use it. Here's the link, and parse branch head. Here's also the link that will not break, but also will not be updated. I doubt that I'll change get char like a lot in the future, but still. Yeah, so this is going to become a plugin that will just give you the function edit character, that edit register, and will take a register, and then you can make mappings for every register, or use get char to get those mappings automatically. Yeah, so thanks for watching.